Alrighty. And, start recording on Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Good Lord. 2:26 p.m. Eastern Time. Solar Rant was going to have on Dr. Amon Hillman, Ammon Hillman. Was gonna, which we were gonna talk about psychedelics, so I had my psychedelic hoodie ready, but I guess I will wear that on Friday. He had to reschedule to Friday, which is fine. Um, but I didn't want to not do a show. I'll be totally honest, I don't really want to do this one right now, but it's like days where I skip the gym, or I skip a meditation, and all I do that entire day is think about it and how I should be doing it. And eventually it's like, dude, if you had just done it, it's like, yeah, procrastination. I think that's one reason why I've always been somewhat good at not procrastinating. And I think from an outside point of view, it looks like I'm disciplined, but I'm really not. I just kind of view it as like tiers of TIER, tiers of suffering, in that if you got to take the trash out, that's one unit of suffering. It's time, it's energy, it's whatever. And then if you think about taking the trash out, that's another. If you think about it for like an hour, that's another tier of suffering. It's another unit of suffering. And it's like, just go do it. That's why I work out as soon as I wake up, so I don't think about it. Because if you think about it all day, if you spend 5 hours thinking about how you should have worked out, that's nice. Some nice pimples. Cool, cool, cool. Thanks, skin. Thinking about how you should have worked out, and then you eventually go do it. You end up suffering for 5 hours instead of just waking up, going and doing it, and it'd be 20 minutes of discomfort and then it's over. Um, but and now so I don't even why am I doing this one today? It's probably, I don't know, some weird work ethic thing where if I don't, I don't know, if I don't do work, I feel guilty or something. Um, but I want to try to get through it anyway. It's been something I've been trying to do, and there's really no topic for this solo rant, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to do it, but I'm gonna try anyway. And I don't even know how to put this into words, but I'm trying more and more to just sit with like now. And I know that's the most eye-rolling beginning of every mindfulness podcast, book, lecture, whatever, We must, Eckhart Tolle or Ram Dass or Alan Watts. And it's all well and good. But I also get where it's like, yeah, I get it. The eternal here and now. We're all, well, yeah, I get it. But I've been trying really hard to do it. And that, and I was thinking about this the other week. Like I never really enjoyed playing sports outside of like rec league stuff in middle school. I didn't like practice. I hated having to run. I hated everything. And it was because I just didn't like to have to do something at someone else's behest. Go do sprints, go do bench press, go do whatever. But I'd have no problem working out for an hour on my own because I knew at any moment I could stop. And because of that, I would go so much farther. The same thing with studying. The only classes I ever went to in college were where I had to go take an exam or something. I would fail the attendance section of the class, which would be like 2 or 3%. I would just fail it outright because I just wouldn't go. I wouldn't go to organic chemistry for like 60, 70 days in a row. But I would have the highest grade in the class because I would study on my own. And it's kind of this odd contrast with meditation that like I have to meditate. Again, it's not discipline. It's more so my I get so fuzzy. It's hard for me to do podcasts. I can't stay on a topic. I start to get, and it's not just like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with, not doing work. It's not just that. Even if I have nothing to do, it's legitimately unenjoyable for me. It's the only way I can describe meditation is like it's glasses for my soul. It's glasses for my mind. And that, I mean, if anyone that wears glasses knows that, you know, if you have to wear glasses, chances are you also need like more light. Try walking around at like 5 p.m. in the winter without glasses in your apartment. You're like bumping into stuff. You're trying to find stuff. It doesn't work. It's like the fog of war. When you go to like a new city or something, or even if you move somewhere new, you can look back at the first time you visited that spot, and that memory feels different than like right now the building I live in. Like I still remember like the first time pulling up, like using GPS, like where am I, and trying to find it. Versus now, it's like like the back of your hand. But the weird thing about meditation for me, and it's occasionally you get a nice, beautiful glimpse of the eternal. You feel the warm love of God, of your ancestors. I can feel my grandparents. I can feel my brother. I can feel aunts and uncles. And I really can. You can feel them just kind of patting you on the shoulder and just being like, "Hey, don't worry. Like life can be scary at times, but we got you. It's all good." And on the other side, it's just you just get to come relax. So it's like you're in a battle, you're in a, life is suffering. This world is full of really indescribable evil. And it's scary, but you know, get a good night's sleep, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, take a multivitamin, and go about your day. What's odd though is so like I need meditation. I don't like going about my day without it. It's legitimately it's more unenjoyable. Everything is more difficult. Workouts, emails, phone calls, everything is like I feel like I'm driving around with like an e-brake on. It's like you feel like you had those weird dreams where you're trying to run but you can't. That's what it is. It's very odd and I don't even know how to describe it. But what's so weird is I find is even after I do the meditation and there's this kind of peace and stillness, much like the workout where I don't want to be told I have to go run sprints, but I'll do it on my own. I don't want to be told that I have to come to class and pay attention to PowerPoints, but I'll do it on my own. I don't like silence, even though it's the exact same thing as meditation. The thing I love about meditation, the silence starts to get to me. And I've been trying more and more, really the last couple weeks, to just sit with it. I don't mean literally sit with it. That's meditation. But I mean go about my day without that constant bombardment of audiobooks, podcasts, music, scrolling, checking your texts, and just being here. And it is very uncomfortable at first. I get very so like I can actually describe like what it is yeah, I start to I become very aware that I'm in a building and like what if it collapses? I become very aware of like that I'm a human and I have hands and we, to the best of our knowledge, came out of a primate predecessor. and that there's food and water, and I urinate and defecate, and I read, and I want to find love, and my parents are getting older every day, and as am I, and as is everyone, and that I'm on the earth, and it's spinning around, and it's going around a star, and the right under the Earth's crust is magma and gravity and fires and diseases, and you know what is going on, and it's very unsettling. And it's unsettling because it's not just like a video game where it's like you're trying to get your bearings. You like hit pause. You're like, all right, I need someone to explain it to me. And your friends who have been playing are like, all right, so we're doing this. We're taking off from here. You can go upgrade over there, and here's the grand scheme, and here's the map, and this is what we're trying to accomplish. And you're like, okay, all right. I'm a newbie at it, but I think I can get better. Reality, it's like you can't exit out. I mean, you can commit suicide, but you can't exit out. And sometimes it gets to me. And being by myself in an apartment, sometimes it feels like it's like it's closing in. I'm by myself. I mean, there are times where I would have panic attacks and I would go drive to the ER, but not even see anyone. I would just ask if I could go sit like in the waiting room. And I'd sit there for 4 or 5 hours and just I liked knowing that. And I've had panic attacks so bad that like they've given me an Ativan. Like they've come and checked my heart and been like, "You are like, what are you on?" And I'm like, "Nothing." Like I'm just going insane. But there are times where I've gone and sat there just to not be alone. And I get that in my apartment sometimes. And um even before this, I was meditating and my heart was starting to jump and I was like, what?" And it's like everything's fine. It's a beautiful Wednesday. Today's guest rescheduled, but it's all good. He texted me, he's like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. Like X, Y, and Z is going on. I'm just having a bad day. Can we do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll do it Friday. It's fine." Like everything's fine. Rent's paid. Everything's fine. But it still gets to me. And so what I'm trying to do now more and more is not run and hide from it. If you're having very bad anxiety, there's nothing wrong with distracting yourself. I legitimately don't believe that there's anything wrong with it. Get yourself a book. You can play, on some of the most anxious days I have, I'll do the video game stream just to be in Discord around friends, just to be doing something. And next thing, there's never a moment that you realize it happens. It's just all of a sudden one day it's like when all of a sudden you realize you need a haircut. There's never like the tipping point. It's just one day you kind of look at it and you're like, this is shaggy, and I need to get this cut. Playing video games, there's never a moment where all of a sudden the anxiety is gone. You just kind of at some point realize you're laughing with friends or you're invested in a task. But so that's if it's really bad, sure, go do something. Go listen to a book, go, call someone, do whatever. But I'm trying more and more to just sit with the feeling of being alone, of being here and being now. And I've found that it's always scary at first, but if I can manage to sit with it for a little bit, it starts to subside. You start to see the shadow on the wall is actually just, the moonlight coming through and it's hitting your, bedside fan and a lamp. You're like, "Oh, that's not a person, that's a shadow." You know, the you think there's a spider on you, but it's your leg hair, and it's just the breeze is hitting it. And I'm trying more and more to sit with it, and I'm only a couple weeks into it, and this is something I'd like to try to continue doing for a while. Who knows? I might quit, but I'm trying to just sit with it And like in the morning, like so, like I woke up today like 20 minutes before my alarm, and the first thing I did was I took my phone off airplane mode and I went to Twitter and immediately was just doom scrolling. And I caught myself like a minute or two in, and I stopped and I stood up and I was like, I'm just gonna go about my morning. No audiobook, no nothing. Just open the blinds and just feel the blinds in your hand. Feel the bed. Pull the covers over. Make the bed. Go into the kitchen. Open the dishwasher. Make ice. Just just feel it. And that doesn't mean you got to be like a monk and extract yourself from reality. Not only is it okay to distract yourself with things if you're feeling anxious, it's also okay to just do stuff because it's fun to do stuff. I mean, like life, like that is some of the best parts of life is just doing stuff. I mean, I hate my daily to-do list, but I love accomplishing it. I love like answering my emails, making the thumbnails, blah blah blah. And so I'm trying to do that more and more, is just sit with it. And also realize that quote unquote it is never coming. The thing is never coming. It's good to have goals. It's good to daily, improve yourself daily. But the thing is never coming. The new apartment, sure, it's cool for a little bit. The new phone, the new studio, it's cool for a bit, but then you get used to it and you're on to the next thing. And that doesn't mean don't continually improve, but what it does mean is don't put it on a pedestal as fulfillment, as bliss, as the thing that's going to make it all better. And that's difficult for me, someone who is hyper goal oriented. But right now, the very life I'm living right now is a life that years ago I could never have imagined. I mean, I remember my goal was to break 100 subscribers, to break 100 episodes, to move out of my parents' house. Then the goal is to break 1,000 subscribers. It's to get an iMac instead of a MacBook. It's to get a 4K camera instead of a webcam. It's to get this microphone. It's to get sound panels. It's to get a bigger apartment. It's to move up closer to family. It's to get 10,000 subscribers. It's to break 1 million views. It's to just keep going. And it's all very cool, but you're never quite there. And right now, the life that doesn't even really register, it's just static background noise, is the life that like I could not have imagined. And now it's just like, yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool, but it's whatever. And if you told me right now, think about the feeling, what would it be like to log in and see 1 million subscribers? Every episode has 100,000 views. Like, dude, that would be so cool. That would be such an adrenaline dump. That would be such like an ego boost knowing people loved your work. But one day I will be there and it will be cool. It'll be cool for a little bit and then it will be gone and you'll be on to the next thing. The only thing that is continually changing is that everyone you know and love is getting older. You, by definition, have less and less time on this earth. It's so fun. I'm having this talk about like peace and mindfulness, and I just noticed one of the sound panels is sticking out at an angle, and I was about to just scream like, But yeah, so those are just kind of the thoughts percolating around right now. And it's all like I'm kind of torn in between, you know. It's like you can meditate for so long and then you realize you're like, yeah, the point of life isn't to like extract yourself and to go, you know, be numb to it all or be in a state of just constant bliss. Oh, that sounds nice. There's the there's the part of me that's like, I think the point of life is the best feeling, the legitimate best feeling is the feeling of exhalation at the end of a long day of like work that you did good work. Now I'm sure we can pick apart that Irish Catholic Puritan, you know, work yourself to pieces because you are a sinner in the eyes of God. Sure. But I just really have found that more than alcohol, more than food or sex or anything is like just plopping down at the end of a day and like you worked out, you listened to an audiobook, you meditated, you prayed, you answered the emails, you did a podcast, you called your mom, you X, Y, and Z, you made your bed, and he just sit like I sit in the gaming chair, and it's not even that like the game is gonna be great. There's just I did it. I did I did what I didn't want to do it today, and I did it. I did good work. And you know, I kind of feel that sometimes when I'm going to bed at night. When I go to bed every night, I tell my brother I love him. It's like the last thing I do before I go to sleep. Say I love you, John. I tell God I love him, you know. How often does he get told that? It's maybe it's kind of nice, you know. Maybe he likes to hear it back. Hey, I love you, I love you, big guy. And then, you know, if I'm ever just kind of, I'd say maybe anxious, but depressed or just flat, I always just try to think of like good things I've done. Not for me, not, you know, sure, I think it's good to think about how much fun you've had and laughter. That's all well and good. But I think back to just like things I've done to help people that I got nothing in return from, that I knew I was going to get nothing in return from, that no one knows I even did. Maybe it was anonymous. Or I, from this podcast that, the people who've said like, I did XYZ or I didn't do XYZ. And I just try to think of like, did I do something good? And there's karma and there's this sort of the balance sheet of actions. But I always think of like when we would rent like a place on a lake when I was little over the summer or something, the cabin or a house or wherever. Like the last day we would always just my parents would put us to work and we just had to clean. We had to vacuum, we had to like, mop, we had to make the bed, we had to, dust things and rearrange things and it was always like this place looks better than when we got here. Like and my parents would always say, just leave it better than you found it. And I think about that a lot. Actually, I call it the summer rental. There were like the summer rental mindset or initiative or whatever or theme or vibe, mood, whatever. But SR, summer rental. And I try to think about life that way. Like, and I've rehashed this a trillion times, but like the study guides I made for the MCAT, yeah, I truly, my OCD just was in hog heaven. I downloaded and bought every different MCAT prep, the Berkeley Review, Kaplan, Exam Crackers, Princeton, blah, blah, blah. And I started studying like 9 months before the MCAT because I'm a psychopath. And I found that most of them were about 90% the same, but they each had their own little section of material or methods of practice that the others didn't hold. And so it was like a Venn diagram where they all had just kind of outer edges of novelty. And so I like combined all of them. And I think it was probably illegal. I would imagine it was copyright, but whatever. And I made these study guides for all the sections and whatever. I aced the MCAT and blah blah blah. And I remember I ended up, giving them to some friends after I took the MCAT who were maybe like a semester behind me or a year behind me or whatever, younger than me. And I never thought anything of it, but like two of the friends I gave to were like first generation immigrants. And I legitimately, it was no like, here, this is for you. It was just sort of like, hey, I made these, man. Like, oh, you're taking the MCAT? Like, you probably use these. This could save you some time. It was just kind of like these guys were my buddies. I had this black friend from legit from Africa, and then another friend from South Korea. And I just gave it to them as just like it was just being a bro, and it wasn't some like kind, beautiful act. It was just these were the guys I would get drunk with. Like it was nothing. Never once thinking that like they couldn't afford like the really nice study guides. They're like, dude, this is awesome. And I was like, oh, that is cool. And like I had already taken the MCAT and already done well. So it was also like, well, I'm no longer competing against people. So so I put them on Reddit and I put them on some like torrent or zip downloader or something. But I remember eventually seeing like a year later that like 10 or 20,000 people had downloaded them. And then I think they got taken down for like copyright. But this is back before I got nuked from Reddit. But for years afterwards, I would get emails from people that were like, hey, like I took the MCAT like 5 times and I just couldn't do well. And I'm a single mother, blah, blah, blah. And I found your study guides and I didn't have the money for them and this blah blah. And I'd always just be like, oh cool, like paid for this is so I got into med school and like a month later lost my older brother. So I just completely checked out from all of it. And I graduated. So I had truly taken that part of my life and just like thrown it out the window. And it's like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. But I look back at something like that where it was like a ton of work I did and I didn't get anything in return from it, but I liked knowing that it happened. Sure, you could even quantify it and be like, well, now there are more doctors in the world, and but whatever. And I don't care about that. It was just knowing that like I helped someone else out. That was so cool. And so I try to think about that in terms of like what really matters. Whenever someone finds the podcast and they're like, dude, I love your show, and they drop 500 bucks on super chat. Like they didn't have to. I didn't provide them with a service, but they just helped out. And it's like, dude, that's so like it's a level of gratitude that's hard to describe, not just because financially it's cool, but there's almost an emotional feeling of like when things like that when I meet my investor or sponsors of the show to where it's like these little proofs of God that like, the show took a lot of hits because I interviewed all these doctors. And I still to this day, and I did at the time, but I still do believe it was the right thing to put the information out there. And if you're an adult, you want to go get the vac, go for it. But I do think that you should have access to the information. And like no one censors the damages of alcohol. You go Google like alcohol problem, and like the first thing comes up is like a national hotline. And you can go get drunk. I can go get drunk right now if I want. But I know the risks and I know from my own experiences the pitfalls. And so I look back at something like that, something that did cost me a lot. I could still be on YouTube. I could still be on, because like 30,000 subscribers on Rumble is not the same as 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like it's a bigger pool of people. It's a more defined platform, you know. Rumble, even though it's not, it has the baggage of being a right wing platform, but it's not. I mean, a lot of it's just brain dead e-girls. And those are things that, and that does that mean that something is more valuable and more meaningful if I took a hit? Sure, but then you have to kind of reverse engineer that psychology and be like, that might be flawed. That might be that sort of Irish Catholic Puritanism of like, you suffered, therefore it's good. And that's not necessarily the case. You're not a better person if you walk to the grocery store every day. Sure, you build a little leg muscle, burn some extra calories, but it doesn't make you a better person because you suffered. Like you're just being stupid. Like, you should drive. It's 5 minutes there and 5 minutes back instead of an hour there, an hour back. So just because there's suffering doesn't necessarily make it just or worthwhile or noble. But it was something that I did because I felt it was the right thing. And when people find my show a year later and they go on a locals and drop $1,000 and they're like, I love your show. I love the people you have on. I know you got screwed by it, but hey, keep fighting the good fight. And then like that's what I needed to pay the rest of rent and to pay utilities this month. And it's just like, oh, that's some dude, thank you so much. And it's just like when it comes back and you like you hope it does, but you never really expect it to. And when it comes back, it really is just like, I don't know what to say. Like it really is. And so what's the point of me saying all of this is back to the silence. Yes, I am gonna try to make the studio bigger and better. I want an Aventimex gaming computer, right? I want a water cooled double graphic. Why? Shut up. That's why. I have an iMac M1 chip. I want a M3 Mac Pro. Why? Shut up. That's why. You know, I have a Honda Civic that works fine. I want a Hummer H1. I want a Rolls Royce. Why? Just shut up. That's why. And that's all fun, and I'll never not enjoy pursuing. But what really matters is, getting quiet and meditating. That's all well and good. But what I've found is the things that really do alleviate anxiety, and on a deep level, not like a Xanax, not an alcohol, not, but I mean on a deep, when you actually remove the anxiety itself, not coat it over with liquor, but when you actually deal with the thing, when you pay off the rent, when you go after class and the teacher gives you the opportunity at extra credit and you work hard and you pass the class and you feel like you actually earned your keep. That's what I get whenever I'm really down. I go back and I find those old emails, or be it not just the COVID vaccines, but like mental health stuff or whatever. I go back and I listen to, or not listen, I read those emails, and there is, it's not a silver bullet. It doesn't work just outright, but there's definitely, I can feel like tension somewhat leave my body. Like if I'm laying in bed and tossing and turning, I'll just think like, if I were to like slip away right now, if my heart were to stop and I would, and I just, everything goes black. I think about good that I know I've done, and not even stuff that's on the private stuff, friends and family, where I know that I'm not getting anything in return. I didn't owe it to anyone, and it often came at expense to myself in whatever form of expense. I think about that stuff, and there is just sort of like a shoulders kind of drop, and you go, I did it. I did something good, and I know I did something good, and that's okay. And so I'm trying to find that space more and more. And the perhaps the hardest part, and I don't even know where to begin with actually carrying it out, is extending like that love. And oh, you don't, no, no. I just spill a thermos of water on my computer and scream. It's very hard for me is extending that to myself. Because one, rationally, I do think it's good to be humble and to not pat yourself on the back. But, I'm really I'm trying to extend love to myself, and it is by far the most difficult mental exercise. I don't know how to do it. I can get these weird sort of like tangential feedback where, like I said, when I think about doing good and that relaxes me and I can fall asleep. That's like, well, who did the good? I did the good. And that means you're good. That right? So in a weird roundabout way, it's a way of loving yourself, but it's very hard for me to just love myself. But I know it's possible because I mean, for my entire life, I hated being like white. I don't mean like I wish I was black. I mean like I legitimately hated being as white as I am. Like amongst white people, I am white, and I just always hated that. And I'm sure it probably came from like middle school or high school. I'm sure someone made a comment and it's buried somewhere deep in my mind. But it wasn't until a couple years ago that I like stopped hating that I was pasty white, and then I actually started loving it and being like, that's just who I am, man. I've got weird blue eyes and I'm pasty white. I wish I was taller, but I'm not. I'm a stocky kind of brick shit house of muscle, and you know what? That's who I am, man. I'm Irish Catholic from New England. I'm from mountain people, blue collar, and it's just like that's what I am, and I love it. And that took a lot to get to. I mean, one of the reasons I keep the American flag behind me is like for all of its flaws, this is like where I'm from, and I love my country. And if you're from Estonia, you should love Estonia, and it's that's good. But I'm trying, and so it's like all these weird. So my point is like I know it is possible because I've moved from a place of disliking to liking, and moved to a place of loving these parts of me, of the mosaic that is myself that I previously did not. And there are more physical things, or they're more kind of background, like, identification boxes filled. American, white, blue eyes. But I know it's possible. And so it's harder as I'm approaching like the event horizon. As you approach the speed of light, it requires exponentially more energy to move an object exponentially smaller increments of speed, velocity, or whatever. It's very difficult, but I'm trying to get to like the things about me I love. And it's very, very difficult. And I think that it's probably good to not fully you don't want to become a narcissist. But I'm trying more to view myself like I'm someone else. And when I view my brothers or cousins or friends, and if I ever have like a spat with them, and always find in my head, I'll be like, you know who they are and you know they're a good person. And maybe you just think differently, or maybe you had different experiences and, you had similar experiences, but they're not the same. And, you know, I can always find a way to ultimately go, they're a good person and I love them. I'm trying to get to that point with myself, and I can't really do it. It's very difficult. And so I'm trying to view myself like I'm someone else. I'm trying to just view me like I'm just viewing someone named Tommy. And I'm like, yeah, you had some spots that were hard, but you're doing your best to get better. And but it's just I don't feel it in my bones. Like I know gravity is real, and I feel it in my. If I look at the edge of a 10 straw, I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't, that I don't that, right? But like that's an inherent thing. But if you point a dog at a gun, or you point a dog at a gun, point a gun at a dog, the dog's gonna lick it no different than they would lick a stick or your finger. There's not this like they don't feel it in their bones, right? So if I just put like I don't know, like a gray tennis ball on your table, you might just look at it and be like, whatever. You might have no idea that that's irradiated graphite. Versus if I put if I point a knife at you, there's a feeling of like, you feel it in your bones. You're like, that's if you know anything about a gun, you're like, that shouldn't be pointed at me, even if it's not loaded. You feel it. You go up to take anyone who's never been outside in their life, you bring them to the edge of a cliff, and they're gonna kind of sit back a little bit. I don't feel it in my bones, but I'm trying to feel it in my bones. Like when I think about friends or whatever, like I feel legitimate love. It starts as like a mental process. I'm like, I know they're good, and they're not perfect, and I'm not perfect, and maybe I'm in the wrong, and eventually I can weave in, and then I feel it, and I go, no, they're a good person. I know they're a good person, and I love them. I don't quite feel that with me. I'm working on it. I'm legitimately trying my hardest and I'm working on it, but I don't feel it in my bones yet. I think though, sitting with the silence of life, I thought I just heard a rainstorm. I think sitting with the silence is a good start though. Why don't you like the silence? Well, I'm alone with my thoughts. Do you have bad thoughts? No. Do you not like yourself? I'm not a fan of myself. It's like, well, there's something we need to work on. So it's just something I'm trying to work on more because I think it's something that you do eventually have to tackle. And I think you can kick it down the road. Right now, I'm 33. I could very easily be like, I'll deal with that on my deathbed. But back to the procrastination thing of, you know, you gotta vacuum. You can think all day about how you should vacuum. And those are all these units of stress followed by the actual act of vacuuming, or you can just vacuum and get it over with. So like I just I want to get more okay with. I think Terrence McKenna said he said part of the journey is sitting with the loose ends. Not everything ties up. Actually, very little loose ends get tied up. Very little things have a beginning, middle, and end. You have to learn to sit with the messiness of it, of unfinished books, of unfinished art, of grudges that didn't end. Somebody died, or they don't talk to you anymore, and it's so I'm trying to sit with. But I also don't want to like throw the rest of my life away trying to solve what might be an unsolvable problem. But it's something that I am just maybe trying to put a little bit of effort into every day. Is like, why don't you like the silence? What's going on that you don't enjoy? And if anything, I'd say the successes I've had thus far are it takes a little bit, but I start to realize that the silence is fine. Nothing's jumping out to bite you. And you go, okay. And you remember. Every morning I wake up and I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do anything. But I know if I go do it, I'll feel better. And every morning I'm like, I don't believe that. And I go and do it and I go, sure enough, I feel better. Same with meditation, same with whatever. And so I think at best, or at least, what you do is you sit with the silence a little bit each day, and the scariness of your own thoughts and your own mortality starts to dissipate. And so the next day, when maybe your phone dies and you're by yourself, and you can go, all right, I can't feel it right now, but I know from past experiences, if I just sit with this for a couple minutes, I'll start to be okay with it. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I would imagine this is not like a thing I just accomplish, like figuring out a new game. But imagine this is probably part of like a daily exercise in life, no different than saving money or dieting, where it's just like this is kind of just what you do now. I would imagine it's probably something like that. And, you know, but I look at the first days I worked out and I remember thinking like, oh, this is probably going to take a while. And it's been like 20 plus years. And it's like, no, this is just something you do. I would imagine that this is probably something I just kind of do now. And in the blink of an eye, it'll be 20 years and I'll be happy that I'm 20 years in. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Not really sure what the point of this solar rant was. I didn't really want to do it, but now I'm happy I did it just because I accomplished something. No, is it rational that I needed to accomplish something? I don't know. I don't really care, but I did. So I'm going to wrap this up and then probably hop in the game stream in like 20, 30 minutes. I'm gonna, probably like an hour, probably closer to an hour. All right, y'all. Love you. Much love. Peace.